When my father died, everyone cried. But when his will was read, they stopped pretending. That's when I realized blood might be thicker than water, but money, it turns blood cold. I used to think funerals were about tears, but ours was filled with fake smiles and whispered calculations. My father, Raj Mehta, had passed away just 3 days ago, and yet the house felt more like a waiting room for opportunity than a place of mourning. Aunt Kavita brought trays of food she didn't cook. My cousin Samir kept checking his phone like he was waiting for a deal to close. Even my mother, quiet and pale, kept avoiding my eyes. I didn't understand it then, but I do now. Grief makes people strange. Greed makes them strangers. I remember standing beside the coffin, tracing the edge of his photo. My father wasn't just a businessman. He was a man who built everything from nothing. He taught me how to read people by their silences, how to find peace in chaos, and how to earn respect, not demand it. But as I looked around that room full of family, I could feel that respect had died with him. When the lawyer arrived, everyone straightened up like actors waiting for the curtain to rise. He said the will would be read in 3 days at Father's old office. 3 days. That's all it took for kindness to rot. Cousins started visiting more often, bringing sweets, offering help, pretending care. I knew better. Are you okay, Arohi? Carried the same hidden question. How much did he leave for you? That night, I sat alone in his study, surrounded by his scent, coffee, paper, sandalwood. His watch was still ticking on the desk. I touched it gently and whispered, "They're all waiting, Papa, but I'll wait for the truth." The next morning, my uncle Arvind came over early. He was the eldest brother, charming, loud, and dangerous when money was involved. "Beta," he said, pretending warmth. "You're young. You won't understand these legal matters. Let me handle the paperwork for you." I smiled politely. "Thank you, Chachu, but Papa taught me to handle everything myself." His eyes hardened for a second before he patted my hand. Of course, yo," he said, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. By the evening, I overheard him whispering on the phone, something about assets and transfer rights. That's when I realized the war had already begun, and I was standing in the middle of it. If you knew your relatives were secretly planning to take your inheritance, would you confront them or wait to expose them at the right moment? The morning of the will reading, our house felt different, heavier, like it knew something was about to break. Mother dressed in a plain white sari and kept her face blank, but I could see the tremor in her hands as she poured tea. No one really talked during breakfast. Even the clinking of cups sounded too loud. By 11, the cars started lining up outside the gate. Relatives arrived like guests at a show they'd all been waiting for. Uncle Arvind led the group, acting like he owned the place already. His wife, Kavita, followed, dripping with jewelry that could have paid for half the company's staff. Behind them came cousins, uncles, and even a few people I hadn't seen in years, all pretending to mourn, but their eyes sparkled when they spoke of property. I stood near the doorway of my father's old office, clutching his photo like a shield. The lawyer, Mr. Sinha, arrived right on time. He was a calm man with silver hair and a kind face, one of the few people I trusted completely. He opened the brown envelope slowly, adjusting his glasses as everyone leaned forward, hungry for numbers. He began, "As per the last will and testament of Mr. Raj Mehta," and the room fell silent. The air thickened. He read out the list of assets, the company shares, the farmhouse, the accounts, each one making my relatives shift in their seats like predators catching scent of prey. I could almost feel their eyes flicking between me and the lawyer, calculating what would fall where. Then Mr. Sinha paused. "However," he said, looking up, "Mr. Mehta included a clause that overrides all standard division." Uncle Arvind leaned forward, his voice sugar-coated. "A clause? What kind?" Mr. Sinha smiled faintly. He wrote that all his holdings, every asset, every account, every piece of property, will go to the one person who has proven loyalty over greed. A few people laughed nervously. "That could mean anyone," Samir said. Mr. Sinha shook his head. Mr. Mehta specified what loyalty meant to him. He unfolded a smaller note, handwritten by my father himself. His voice softened as he read, "To my family, wealth can be rebuilt, but character once lost cannot. The person who stood by me not for gain, but for love, will inherit everything I leave behind. That person knows exactly what I mean, and where to find the proof." The room went silent. All eyes turned toward me. Mother's face stayed unreadable, but I saw the faintest flicker of recognition in her eyes. Uncle Arvind cleared his throat. "This is ridiculous," he said sharply. "How can we divide based on riddles and emotions? The law doesn't work like that." But the lawyer only replied, "The document is valid and legally binding. The estate remains sealed until the proof is presented." That's when it hit me. My father had hidden something that would prove who truly deserved it all. And I knew deep down, he'd left that clue for me. That night, I couldn't sleep. His words kept echoing in my head. Where to find the proof? I sat in his study again, eyes roaming across the bookshelves, the trophies, the framed photos. Then my gaze landed on a small wooden box under his desk, one I'd never seen before. My hands shook as I reached for it. If your late father left a mysterious clue in his will that could change your life forever, would you open it immediately or wait until you were sure no one was watching? I waited until midnight when the house fell silent. The laughter from the living room had died hours ago, laughter that came from relatives who had spent the day pretending they weren't disappointed by father's will. One by one, lights went off, doors clicked shut, and the echo of greed faded into the dark. That's when I moved. I walked into father's study barefoot, afraid even the sound of my steps might wake the ghosts of the house. The room smelled like him. Ink, old paper, faint coffee. His chair still faced the window as if he'd just gotten up for a moment and would return any second. I whispered, "Papa, please let me understand what you wanted me to find." The small wooden box sat beneath the desk, covered in a thin layer of dust. It wasn't locked, but when I touched it, I felt something strange, like it carried a pulse. I lifted it gently and placed it on the table. The wood was carved with faint patterns, Not random, but familiar. My father's initials. And underneath them, a single phrase. For the one who remembers. My fingers trembled as I opened it. Inside lay a stack of old photos. Me as a child, sitting beside him at the company office, smiling with missing teeth. Beneath them was a folded envelope marked in his handwriting. To Arohi, when I am gone. My heart thudded. I unfolded the letter slowly. My dearest Arohi, if you're reading this, it means I've kept my promise. I told you once that loyalty will always reveal itself in silence. You've always seen beyond appearances. Inside this box, you'll find the key to the locker at Sunrise Bank, Branch 9. In that locker lies what I built, and proof of what I meant in my will. Don't let anyone push you into fear. The truth is yours to uncover, not theirs to take. Love. Papa tears blurred the ink as I read it again and again. I could almost hear his voice, calm and sure, like he was guiding me through the storm even now. The key was taped beneath the lid of the box, a small silver one, polished, heavy, engraved with the same initials. Just as I slipped it into my pocket, I heard footsteps in the hallway. My breath froze. Someone was awake. I quietly placed the box back, turned off the desk lamp, and hid behind the curtain near the window. The door creaked open. It was Uncle Arvind. He looked around the study, muttering under his breath. Where did he hide it? Old fool. He opened drawers, rifled through papers, even checked behind the bookshelf. My heart pounded so loudly I feared he'd hear it. Finally, he sighed and left, closing the door gently behind him. When the silence returned, I exhaled shakily. That's when I realized this wasn't just about inheritance anymore. It was about survival. Tomorrow, I'd go to the bank, alone. But I had no idea how closely I was already being watched. Would you risk going to the bank alone if it meant uncovering your father's final secret? Even knowing someone in your family might be following you? The next morning, the world outside looked too normal for what I was about to do. Birds still sang, the milkman still rang the bell, and the sky wore the same quiet blue. But inside me, everything felt like thunder waiting to break. I got dressed simply, tied my hair back, and slipped Father's silver key into my pocket. Mother noticed. She always did. Going somewhere, Beta? She asked softly, eyes searching mine. I forced a smile. Just need to clear my head. She hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Be careful, she whispered. And for a split second, I wondered, did she know about the box? I took an auto to Sunrise Bank. Every street corner felt suspicious. Every car behind me felt like it followed a little too long. Maybe it was paranoia, or maybe it was the truth. When I finally reached the bank, I paused at the glass doors, took a breath, and walked in. The security guard guided me to the locker section after checking my ID. My hands were damp when I handed over the key. The manager smiled politely. Locker number? 74, I said quietly. He opened the vault area and left me alone with rows of identical steel doors. The air smelled metallic and cold. When I slid my key into the lock, it fit perfectly. A quiet click that felt almost sacred. Inside the locker lay a sealed brown envelope and a flash drive. No cash, no jewelry, nothing shiny. Just paper and silence. My throat tightened as I picked up the envelope and unfolded the documents. The first page was a letter from my father, typed this time. If you found this, Arohi, then you've already passed the first test. Patience over panic. What you hold now are the records of how I built Meta Enterprises and who tried to steal it from me. You'll see familiar names. Don't be afraid of them. Truth will always burn greed to ashes. The flash drive holds the final proof. Share it only when the right moment comes, not before my eyes scan the next few pages. Transaction statements, property documents, and finally a list of names. My stomach turned when I saw them. Arvind Mehta, Samir Mehta, Kavita Mehta. My father had uncovered everything. Secret transfers, forged signatures, stolen profits, and he'd documented them all. I stared at the papers until the letters blurred. He knew. He knew how deep the betrayal went. And instead of revenge, he left me the power to reveal it myself. But just as I slipped everything back into the envelope, I heard footsteps echoing down the hallway. Heavy, fast, too familiar. Uncle Arvind's voice. I froze, pressing the documents against my chest. Arohi, he called out, pretending surprise. What are you doing here, Beta? I smiled tightly. Just finishing some paperwork for Papa's estate. He looked at the key in my hand, his expression darkening. Ah, he said slowly. So you found it. My pulse quickened. Found what? He stepped closer, lowering his voice. You think your father didn't tell me about that locker? Give me the key, Arohi. You have no idea what you're dealing with. I took a step back. You're right, I said, slipping the key into my bag. I don't, but I'll find out soon. Then I turned and walked away before he could answer, every step echoing like defiance. But the way he watched me leave told me the real storm was only beginning. If you discovered proof that your own relatives betrayed your father, would you confront them directly or wait for the perfect moment to expose them? When I returned home from the bank, my heart still hadn't caught up with my body. My fingers clutched the envelope inside my bag like it was alive, like it could burn through the fabric and spill the truth at any second. Every corner of the house felt colder now. Every familiar face a little sharper, like they'd all turned into reflections I couldn't trust anymore. Mother was in the living room with Aunt Kavita, pretending to talk about temple donations. I could hear the sugar in their voices, could feel the poison beneath it. I wanted to scream, to throw the papers in their faces and say, I know everything. But my father's letter echoed in my mind. Share it only when the right moment comes. So I swallowed the urge and smiled like I knew nothing. I went straight to my room, locked the door, and plugged in the flash drive. My laptop screen flickered once before a folder appeared. For Arohi. Inside it were dozens of files. Bank statements, voice recordings, scanned letters, all neatly labeled by date. I clicked the first one. It was an audio file. My father's voice filled the room, steady and calm. March 12th. Today, Arvind approached me about transferring company shares under his management. I refused. He smiled, that polite, dangerous smile, and said, Family should trust family. I agreed, but not the way he meant it. I trust him enough to watch him try another file. April 5th, Samir used company funds for personal investments. Again, Kavita signed off the paperwork to hide it. I've gathered enough evidence to show how deep this runs. I don't want confrontation. I want truth to outlive me. I covered my mouth as tears streamed down. He knew everything. Every betrayal, every lie. And yet he stayed silent, patient, waiting for the right time to make sure I would see them for who they were. Then at the bottom of the folder, there was one last video file named For Her. My hands trembled as I clicked it. Father appeared on the screen, sitting in his office, tired but smiling. Arohi, he said gently. If you're watching this, it means you've found what I left behind. You've always had my heart and my trust. Don't let them take that from you. The truth isn't just proof, it's protection. When they come for what isn't theirs, show them what loyalty looks like. The screen faded to black. For a long moment, I just sat there, staring at the reflection of my tear-streaked face. That was when I heard the faintest creak outside my door. I turned the laptop off instantly and held my breath. Through the slit beneath the door, I saw the shadow of feet, still, waiting. Then a whisper. Low, sharp, unmistakable. It was Samir. She's got it, he whispered. Uncle was right. My chest tightened. I clutched the flash drive, my father's voice echoing in my head. It wasn't just about inheritance anymore. It was war. If you found undeniable proof that your relatives had betrayed your father, but they already knew you had it, would you fight openly or protect the truth in silence until the right moment? I barely slept that night. Every sound felt like a threat, every shadow like a secret breathing near my ear. By morning, the house felt too quiet, the kind of quiet that comes right before a storm. When I stepped out of my room, I saw Uncle Arvind sitting in Father's armchair, sipping tea like it was his throne. Samir stood behind him, arms crossed, watching me. Good morning, Beta, Arvind said smoothly. You look tired. Busy night? I smiled faintly. Just going through some of Papa's old things. He chuckled, pretending amusement. Ah, I'm sure you found plenty. Your father always did love puzzles. My mother appeared from the kitchen then, holding a tray. Her eyes darted between us, nervous, uncertain. Let's not start the day with arguments, she whispered. But Arvind ignored her. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. Let's be honest, Arohi. We all know why you went to the bank yesterday. My throat went dry, but I held my gaze steady. Do we? His smile thinned. Don't act naive. You found something. Documents, maybe a key, maybe both. Whatever it is, it belongs to the family. Hand it over, and this will all be easy. Samir added sharply. You think you can handle company affairs alone? You're just a girl with no business experience. Do you even know how much the empire's worth? Their words hit like darts, but I didn't flinch. I know exactly what it's worth, I said softly, because my father taught me what it cost him. Arvind's eyes hardened. Enough riddles. Give me the flash drive. I looked straight at him. You mean the one with your forged transactions? The proof of how you stole from your own brother? The color drained from his face for a second. Then he forced a laugh. Lies. You don't even know what you're talking about. I took a step closer. I do. Every account, every fake signature, he documented it all. You can pretend ignorance, but the truth is sitting right here. I touched my heart. Samir's composure cracked. You think anyone will believe you over us? You're just a grieving daughter. We'll tell everyone you're unstable. Arvind nodded slowly, almost smiling. Let's not turn this ugly Arohi. You can keep a portion, say 20% of the estate. We'll take the rest. That's fair. That's when something inside me broke. Not with anger, but with clarity. My father hadn't left me wealth. He'd left me a weapon called truth. I took a deep breath. Keep your offers, Issa, I said quietly. I don't want your share. I want justice. And when the board sees what's on that drive, they'll know who destroyed this family. Arvind's smile disappeared completely. He stood up slowly, towering over me. You're making a mistake, he whispered. Don't forget, family can destroy you faster than enemies. I met his eyes. Then maybe it's time they tried. I walked away, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my palms. Behind me, I heard him say to Samir, watch her. She's going to ruin everything. He was right. I was going to ruin everything, for the right reasons. If you were in Arohi's place, facing relatives who threaten you for the truth, would you fight back immediately or gather more proof to expose them publicly later? 2 days later, I received an email from the Meta Enterprises Board. Emergency meeting, called by Acting Director Arvind Mehta. My hands tightened on the mouse. Acting Director? That title wasn't his yet, but clearly he was wasting no time pretending it was. Mother tried to stop me from going. Arohi, he's setting something up. You don't have to face them alone, she said softly, eyes glistening with fear. I smiled faintly. Papa faced them for years alone. I can handle one meeting. I wore the same navy blue blazer my father gave me on my 21st birthday. He'd said it made me look ready for war. As I entered the glass-walled boardroom, every head turned. There they were, my uncles, cousins, and a few senior managers, all seated like judges waiting to declare my fate. Uncle Arvind sat at the head of the table, adjusting his cufflinks. Ah, Arohi, he said smoothly. Glad you could join us. We were just discussing the company's transition plan now that your father is gone. I took the empty seat opposite him. Transition or takeover? I asked quietly. A few board members exchanged glances. He chuckled, pretending charm. You misunderstand. The company needs strong leadership, not sentimentality. And since you're young and inexperienced, I've taken the liberty to propose myself as managing director. I looked straight at him. Convenient. He leaned forward. Don't worry, you'll still hold shares. A symbolic gesture. That should be enough. A few members nodded nervously. Most of them had benefited from his favors over the years. I let him speak, every word digging his own grave. When he finished, I opened my laptop and connected the projector. The room dimmed as the first slide appeared. My father's company letterhead, dated just weeks before his death. Before you proceed with any transition, I said, you should all see what my father documented. Arvind's voice cut in sharply. This is irrelevant. I clicked play. My father's voice filled the room, calm and clear. This is Raj Mehta. I record this for my board, to preserve the integrity of Mehta Enterprises. Certain members, including my brother Arvind, have misused company assets for personal benefit. Evidence of all transactions is attached. Gasps spread across the table. Arvind went pale. This is fabricated, he snapped. I ignored him and opened the folder of documents. Every fraudulent transfer, every false signature, projected in bright light for everyone to see. One director murmured, This is serious. Another whispered, we've seen these accounts. They match. Arvind slammed his fist on the table. Enough. She's lying. I looked straight at him. My father wasn't a liar. You just didn't expect his truth to outlive him. For a moment, silence hung heavy in the air. Then Mr. Sinha, the company lawyer, spoke from the back. All evidence aligns with records I've verified. The will states full control belongs to Arohi Mehta. Effective immediately, every eye turned to me. Every mask in that room fell away. Arvind stood frozen, fury burning through his smile. You think this is over, girl? He hissed. You don't know what you've started. I looked at him, calm as the storm after lightning. No, Chachu. I'm just finishing what Papa started. If you had one chance to expose your family's lies in front of everyone, would you do it? Even if it meant destroying every relationship left? The next morning, the house felt heavier. Silence had weight now. Thick, cold, impossible to ignore. Mother sat in the living room, clutching her tea like it was the only warm thing left in this world. They called me this morning, she said softly. Your uncle wants a family discussion. I laughed bitterly. He means damage control. Outside, reporters had already gathered near the gate. Whispers of fraud in the Mehta family spread faster than smoke in the wind. Uncle Arvind's face had appeared in headlines, side by side with mine. The Mehta heir strikes back. It wasn't a headline I wanted, but it was one my father deserved. When I reached the mansion that afternoon, I found Arvind pacing like a trapped lion. You humiliated me in front of the board, he barked. Do you have any idea what you've done? Yes, I said evenly. I told the truth. He slammed his fist on the table. Truth? You ruined this family's name? I stepped closer. No, you did that the day you started stealing from it. Aunt Neha tried to intervene. Arohi, please, stop this madness. You're tearing us apart. I looked at her, voice trembling but firm. No, Chachi. I'm just refusing to live in your lie anymore. For a moment, the whole room froze. Even my cousins stayed quiet. The same ones who once ignored me now avoided my eyes completely. Arvind took a deep breath, trying to regain control. You think the board will keep you? You think they'll follow a girl with no experience? I smiled faintly. I don't need them to follow me. I need them to remember who built this company, he scoffed. You'll fail within a month. Then you'll get to watch, I said quietly, because I'm not leaving. Mother's voice broke through the tension, fragile yet strong. Arvind, Raj trusted you. You betrayed him. And now you're angry because his daughter still trusts herself. For the first time, I saw something flicker in his eyes. Shame, maybe. Or the realization that he was finally cornered. But power doesn't die quietly. That night, I received a message from an unknown number. You think you've won? The truth always has another side. Watch carefully, Arohi. I didn't know who sent it, but I knew one thing. This wasn't over. As I stood on the balcony, city lights reflecting off the glass, I whispered to the night, Papa, they tried to bury you. But I'll make sure your name rises higher than ever. The war wasn't just about inheritance anymore. It was about legacy. And I was ready for round two. If you exposed your family's betrayal but they still refused to admit their guilt, would you fight harder or finally walk away? It started with a memory. A week after the confrontation, I couldn't sleep. My father's study, still sealed, untouched since his passing, kept haunting my dreams. Something about that room felt unfinished, like he'd left a message no one else had found yet, so at 3 a.m., barefoot and trembling, I unlocked the door. The air inside was thick with the scent of old paper and sandalwood. His scent. His desk, still neatly arranged. A faint layer of dust on everything, except the bottom drawer. It opened too easily. Inside, a brown envelope, edges worn, sealed with red wax. His personal seal. The label read, For Arohi, when the truth hurts more than silence. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were letters, dozens of them, and a USB drive. The letters were between my father and someone named RK. They spoke of family disputes, secret transactions, and a silent partner in the company who had been protecting us for years. But the last letter stopped my breath completely. Arvind has made a deal behind my back. He's using the family's name for personal gain. If anything happens to me, Arohi must know the truth. The USB holds proof. She'll know what to do. My knees gave out. Tears blurred the ink on the page. He knew they were betraying him, and still, he left them with trust instead of revenge. That was his final test. I plugged in the USB. A folder opened titled Project Prithvi. Inside were contracts, offshore accounts, and voice recordings. Recordings of Arvind and his partners plotting to transfer company assets. My father's voice interrupted them midway, calm, steady, and heartbreaking. You're trading your blood for money, Arvind. One day you'll realize wealth without loyalty is just dust. I couldn't stop crying. It was like hearing him again. Firm, loving, disappointed. I realized then, my father hadn't just left me a company. He'd left me a mission. By sunrise, I had backed up every file, every letter. And by noon, I walked into the boardroom again, this time with proof. The board members watched silently as I played the recordings. Arvind's voice filled the room like poison finally being exposed to light. When the last file ended, I looked up. This is what loyalty means, I said quietly. And this is what happens when greed replaces it. No one spoke for a long time. Then the chairman nodded slowly. Arohi, From this day forward, the company is yours. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like justice, quiet, steady, overdue. That night, as rain washed the city clean, I whispered to my father's photo, I did it, Papa. Blood didn't win. Loyalty did. If you discovered proof that could destroy your family's reputation but clear your father's name, would you reveal it to the world or protect the family's image? The day I took over the company, the air in the office felt different. No more whispers in the corridors, no more fake smiles. Just silence. The kind that follows a storm. Uncle Arvind hadn't shown up since the board meeting. The news channels had already picked up the recordings. He was no longer the respected meta patriarch. He was the man who sold his brother's name for profit. But that evening, he came. I was in my father's cabin, sorting through files, when the door creaked open. Arvind stepped in quietly. His once sharp suit looked worn, his eyes hollow. So, it's all yours now, he said, voice tired, not angry. It was never about that, I replied softly. He let out a bitter laugh. You think you've won some moral war? You ruined everything your father built. No, I said, standing up. I protected it. From you? He stared at me, searching for words, but all he found was guilt. I just wanted what I was owed, he whispered. What you were owed, I said, stepping closer, was trust. And you broke it. For a long moment, we stood in silence. Then his shoulders sank. Your father was right, he said quietly. He told me once. Money can buy loyalty, but not love. I laughed at him then. He looked away, eyes glistening. I'm not laughing now. I wanted to hate him. I really did. But seeing him like that, stripped of pride, haunted by regret, I realized he wasn't my enemy anymore. He was just a man who'd lost himself chasing numbers that never loved him back. Arvind, uncle, I said softly, you can still make it right. He shook his head. It's too late for me. No, I said, voice trembling. It's too late to change the past. But not to honor it, I handed him one of my father's letters, the last one he'd written before he died. He opened it slowly. His lips quivered as he read the final line aloud. If loyalty survives greed, my bloodline will survive me. A tear rolled down his cheek. He still believed in me. I nodded. He believed in all of us, that one day, we'd choose blood over money. For the first time, he smiled faintly. You sound just like him. When he left the room, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt free. I turned toward my father's portrait. His eyes, kind and unyielding, seemed to meet mine. I finally understand, Papa, I whispered. Wealth fades. But the love we protect, that's what stays. Outside, the rain had stopped. The city glowed under the sunset. Golden, alive, forgiving. And in that quiet moment, I realized I hadn't just inherited my father's company. I had inherited his heart. When life gives you the choice between holding on to anger or ending a family feud, which one do you think takes more strength?